In Parshat Terumah, we're introduced to the different kelim of the Mishkan. And in Perek Kaf-Hey Pasuk Lamed Aleph, we are introduced to the construction of the menorah. The Torah tells us, "Va'asisa menorah zahav tahor miksha te'aseh ha-menorah," that you will make a menorah zahav, a golden menorah, pure, out of a solid piece of gold, miksha te'aseh, it should be made. The commentaries note that there seems to be an inconsistency in the opening half here of this verse. On the one hand, it says, "Va'asisa," you will make, implying that Moshe or someone else will make the menorah. But then, a few words later, it says, "Te'asa," which implies that it was made. It was made, so to speak, on its own, or passively. So Rashi, sensitive to this inconsistency, quotes a teaching of the rabbis in the Medrash Tanchuma, who explained that, in fact, Moshe started making the menorah, but it was too difficult, too complicated for him, and as a result he then threw this miksha, he threw this block of gold into a fire, and in fact the menorah was then heavenly and miraculously made by God himself. Many years ago, I was at a celebration, a Sudat Sheva Brachos, of a friend who had learned here in Yeshivat Har Etzion, Yoni Krest, and I remember that they had this privilege and the honor of Rav Lichtenstein being at the Su'udah. Rav Lichtenstein was honored, of course, with Divrei Torah, Divrei Bracha, and in the course of his remarks, Rav Lichtenstein discussed this Rashi, this Medrash, and he wondered, what was so difficult about the menorah? Why, of all the various other utensils for the Mishkan, was it specifically the menorah that Moshe had such a difficulty building and constructing? So Rav Lichtenstein explained homiletically, al pi drush, that in fact the menorah seemed to Moshe to represent two opposites which he could not harmonize. On the one hand, the menorah was miksheh. It was made out of a single solid piece of gold. And Rav Lichtenstein interpreted that, as have many Ba'alei Drush before him, that the miksheh represents or symbolizes achdus, unity. That the menorah, being hewn from one solid single piece of gold, was to symbolize the importance of unity among the Jews, achdus. On the other hand, Rav Lichtenstein noted, there is something particularly striking about the menorah, and that is that of all the different klei hamikdash, of all the different klei hamishkan, the different utensils, it is the one that is the most, I believe the term he used was, ungepatscht in Yiddish. It is the most complicated and ornate. The menorah is filled with all the different branches and bowls and goblets and knobs. And these details, and intricate details, Rav Lichtenstein suggested, symbolized all the different nuance and differences that can be between people. And therefore he suggested homiletically that that was what so perplexed Moshe. On the one hand, the menorah is a miksheh, symbolizing unity. On the other hand, it was so detailed and had so many fine nuances and differences, symbolizing difference, variety. How could you resolve that? And Moshe simply couldn't. What is the lesson we are to learn, said Rav Lichtenstein? When Moshe threw the block of gold into the fire, that Hashem, by making the menorah, was in essence teaching Moshe and all of us, Ledorot, a very important lesson. That from the Jewish perspective, achdus in unity is not the same thing as unanimity. It is not the same thing as everyone having to be exactly the same. You can have all the nooks and crannies, all the various knobs and bowls and goblets and cricks and crevices. You can have all those details symbolizing all the differences and the variety being truly the beauty and spice of life. But as long as there's a single base, a single basis that everyone is focused on, that can still be achdus, but achdus with difference, achdus with variety, achdus that respects individuality. It's not a contradiction, but in fact can be beautifully harmonized together. What is interesting is if we just skip briefly to the end of the section, in Pasuk Mem, there's a similar apparent contradiction, or at least anomaly, I should say. The Pasuk says, Ure'ei va'asei, Moshe should see and make in these this menorah. And again, Rashi notes what is going on. What's Ure'ei? What is he seeing? So Rashi quotes that Moshe, again, couldn't make the menorah. He tried. He saw a blueprint of the menorah, a fiery blueprint, and then he was able, va'aseh, to make it. A number of commentaries, notably the Sfas Emes, the great Hasidic Rebbe and master, the Ger Rebbe, ask that this Rashi seems to contradict the first one. The first medrash seemed to imply that Hashem made the menorah after Moshe could not. But this second Rashi, in the second medrash, seems to imply that after Moshe's initial difficulty, Hashem's assistance enabled Moshe to make it himself. So which one is it? So they explain, the Sfas Emes quotes, that in fact Moshe had a difficulty, Hashem showed him the blueprint, Moshe started making it again, but then he still struggled, and in conclusion, Hashem had to do it himself. But if this is the case, asked the Sfas Emes, why didn't Hashem just do it himself? Why did he make Moshe go through all these efforts and all these attempts to make it himself if in the end Hashem would have to do it? And the Sfas Emes explains very beautifully and profoundly that Moshe was zocheh to this hashkacha, this special gift of Hashem helping him. He was zocheh to it because of all of his hishtadut, because of all his efforts. If he hadn't tried, he wouldn't have ever merited the divine assistance. And this, says the Sfas Emes, is not only something that happened to Moshe, but a lesson for all of us and for all of life. We have many important and big things we're intended to accomplish as individuals and as a nation. And of course we want and need Hashem's blessing. But we cannot make the mistake that we should just sit by idly and let Hashem do it for us. On the contrary, says the Sfas Emes, we learn from Moshe's struggle and attempts with the menorah that only if we try and then try again and even try a third time when necessary, only if we try and put our utmost effort into it, will we merit, and we will merit, but only then will we merit Hashem's divine blessing and assistance. And I think we can conclude by noting that these two ideas can in fact be harmonized into a third. Rav Lichtenstein taught us about what the true meaning of Achdus is, and the Sfas Emes taught us that we need effort in order to be zocheh to Hashem's blessing. Put it together, and I think the third lesson is equally powerful. Achdus, something that is so elusive, something we all talk about, we all know we desperately need. True unity among the Jewish people is hard, but we can't give in to the temptation of giving up. We need to keep on trying and doing our best to achieve Achdus, and then, if we truly keep on trying, hopefully we will then be zocheh to the blessing where Hashem will bless those efforts and help us achieve that long, elusive goal of true Sheves Achim Gam Yachad. The Jewish people should truly be unified once again.